I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello. This is Christina Barney, Watcher Black 2 News. Hello. Welcome to Black 2 News. I'm your host, Christina Barney. Today, we're going to be looking at this ad that the Trump team actually released. It's going after Kamala Harris and her opinions and about, paying for illegal transgender surgeries and stuff. And they're using a clip from Charlemagne from the Breakfast Club, who was like, I don't want my taxpayer dollars to go to that. And I think the reason why they're shining a light on that is to just highlight how absolutely radical and weird she is. Because Kamala Harris has been going around trying to really paint herself as some kind of moderate, like, oh, I wouldn't ban fracking. Oh, I wouldn't tell you what to drive. Oh, we're good with oil. Like, it's just stuff that's so far removed from her history, and so when Trump brought this up at the debate, it was so crazy that people thought that he was just making stuff up. And she was just I believe, just shaking her head when he brought it up. But he was correct. He was correct when he mentioned how she felt about that stuff. So we'll talk about that. Also, I want to talk about this goofy video from her husband, Doug Imhoff, and how they complain about her name and how people get her name wrong. I just think it's the most wackest thing to really complain about all the time, over and over and over again. Not just how you pronounce her name, but they're upset that people refer to her first name rather than her last name, as if that's, a sexist sort of thing going on. And I'll show you why that's really silly, but I'm sure you don't even need me to tell you that it is. Also, I'm going to show you some clips from a Ted Cruz's debate that he had last night, and see him Lee or Liu, I think it's Simu Liu. He's an actor who played in the movie Shang-Chi. And yes, I'm going to call it Shang-Chi. Because I believe that's how Jim Starlin said it. So, he was on some kind of show where they were doing investments, and he scolded someone who made like bubble tea, and I guess thought it was cultural appropriation, so he wouldn't invest in them. So that's some hot news right now, and he always kind of puts his foot in his mouth, and he's a unlikable guy in my opinion. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go blacktnews.com, check out different content and website articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it does cost a stream, run my site, all that good stuff. So you guys can support. I very much do appreciate you guys. You guys can check out different merch that's available on the website as well. That's another good way to support. And I got all these different t-shirts. I do have some of the hoodies that I have. Like, I have the goat hoodie. It is really warm and comfortable. That's not the only hoodie that I have, but I do recommend that you guys check that stuff out. And I do have them in different colors. So I recommend that you guys go check out my different stuff at the store. Again, on November the 3rd, which is the Sunday before the election, I will be in Ann Arbor at a book festival, and my signing will be from 10 to 12, and I'll be having my books there. So if you want something there, you can get it there. Or if you're going to Motor City Comic Con that weekend, I'll be at Motor City Comic Con in Novi, and it should be a lot of fun. I'll be in Artist Alley. So I'm looking forward to it. I was looking at my stock earlier today to see what I had available, and I just got to order some more books. I've got a lot of books to order. So I'm looking forward to it. That when you want to make sure you got everything in stock and you have like 18 different books, it's always a big order. It's always a big order. So anyway, I'm looking forward to it. There's two of them every year now. They used to be just in May, but now they have it in May and November. So I try to do both shows. So it should be a good time, and hopefully I'll see some of you guys there. If not, I understand people not traveling. Many of you do not live in Michigan, but I'll let you know when there's other events or I do some traveling and stuff. Anyway, let's hop to it. Let's hop to it. So Donald Trump released this ad, and they're using Charlemagne from The Breakfast Club. If you do not know what The Breakfast Club is, it is a huge pop culture show where they talk a lot about music, and they do talk about politics, and they'll have all kinds of different guests on. I think that JD Vance should go on The Breakfast Club. I think he'd kill it. I think he'd do a good job. Vivek and other people have gone on the show, done a decent job on there, but I think JD Vance could hold his own and, expand Trump's message to a wider audience. But there's people who go on there and have done that. But Charlemagne was talking about Trump, about at the debate, Trump mentioned that Kamala Harris wanted to pay for sex changes for illegal aliens. And at the time when he mentioned that, people thought that was bonkers, or some people thought it was bonkers. I knew it was the truth. And, I think it was CNN K-File who did a report about it before the debate happened. So it was an information that was out there, but I don't know how many people saw it or just kind of wanted to ignore it. But she said what she said, and she knows what she said. But they say something crazy and they'll just shake their head, even though it's their record, which I'll show you an example of that, not with Kamala Harris, but someone else. And they'll just try to deny their record because they don't expect everybody to go and look it up, and the truth is the truth. So Charlemagne commented on this and was like, I don't want my taxpayer dollars paying for that. So Donald Trump and his team, and it has an actual, it's posted by him, and it has an actual, like, I approve of this message, included Charlemagne's words on there, and cut an ad with some of Kamala Harris's words. And I think the reason why they're zoning in on this is because she says stuff that's so radical, and Kamala is really doing her darndest to make it seem like she's middle of the road. And Trump needs to shine a light on her and say, no, she's as left as you can get. I'm the one who's actually moderate in this race. So if you're a light Democrat, if you're or an independent, I'm the safest choice. She's the radical in the race. They're both pointing fingers at who's the most radical person. She's like, hey, he's going to put you in camps and be dictator on day one, and there's going to be bloodbath if he loses, and says all this crazy stuff about him. And which some people buy, a lot of people don't, because we already experienced a Trump presidency. But he can point to things that she actually proposed, things she actually said, and if people care enough to learn, the information is out there. But anyway, without further ado, here's the ad. All right, let me turn that up. I didn't realize it was so low.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners, every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
Hell no, I don't want my taxpayer dollars going to that.
Kamala supports transgender sex changes in jail with our money.
Kamala even supports letting biological men compete against our girls in their sports. Kamala is for they, them. President Trump is for you.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
So when I first saw that ad, I did laugh. He's like, Kamala's for they, them. He's for you. So I'm a wee bit surprised that this is like an actual Trump ad rather than it being, something that one of his many, fans online put out, because people would see that as just an attack on the transgender folks and LGBT community, and they just be crying about it all day long about how homophobic, transphobic, and stuff that it is. And I don't get the vibe that that is like Trump kind of wants to take that head on. So I thought it was interesting that I think that line at the end was killer. She's for they them, he's for you. But it is so like in your face, but it's like, but look at this, there's a reason why this is crafted the way that it is. I mean, with Charlemagne, with his particular demographic, that he covers, her talking about this crazy thing, you know and then it goes back to them showing this huge dude. Like, I'm aware of this situation. Not just a dude, an older dude playing against the girls. I mean, that those are his teammates, but and then showing these people who are actually in the Biden administration. One of these people being someone who was stealing women's clothes from airports. You'd pick up their luggage and just be off. And there was one person's luggage that he stole who was like a custom designer. And so she knew when her stuff was gone and he was out there wearing it. So I wonder what all he was. I mean, he's taking the clothes. Like, what's he doing with their underwear? Just so many icky things about that particular story. But these are people who are in the Biden administration, and of course, you still have Rachel Levin, who is the assistant health secretary, which is scary, who failed upward because Pennsylvania is not a state that did great during COVID, and he like notoriously got his mom out of the nursing homes, knowing that they had bad policies for putting people with COVID in the nursing homes and how damaging that would be. And then Biden was like, sure, let's promote that person and put them up on the, over so many Americans. That makes perfect sense. And Levin also, wanted to get rid of standards for like age recommendations for minors having surgery and all the other kind of stuff. And so that was a big outrage that the New York Times actually reported on. And then I guess it got so much blowback that the White House was like, oh no, we don't support minors getting surgeries. I'm like, yeah, you kind of do. So everyone who's like radical though, they made sure they are white. The normal people are black people, except for, Kamala. And it's like, we don't want our taxpayer dollars paying for that. And then it goes at the end here, and it's just Trump with black men. And then here's a normal looking family. And then he's hugging this black woman here. I approve this message. Like, so this is obviously an ad that's targeted toward African Americans, obviously. And that's the group they're going after to try to keep Kamala Harris, she's not where she needs to be with men, even black men, and they want to make sure that those numbers are not going to turn out in droves on her behalf. That is their goal here. So they cannot like Republicans all day long traditionally, but are they into this weird stuff? Do they want, dudes playing with their girls, like older men even playing against their girls on different teams, sports teams? I don't think so. I don't think so. So again, you may not like Republicans, but if you're like, that's really strange, that's too far. That's too far because at the core, there's a lot of Black Americans who are conservative, more are on the conservative side, especially like with morals and values and stuff. Many are church goers. Black people go to church consistently, more than any other minority in the US, as far as like multiple times a week and consistently throughout the weeks and stuff. It's Black Americans. So they may uniformly vote Democrat normally, but the trend is going down. But that's just something that they're used to. They check straight party ticket. It's just kind of built into them. That's just what Black people are supposed to do. But as far as the issues, there's a lot of things that would relate and jive to the Republican Party. And if they could see stuff like this, it would give them pause, I think. Obviously, that's what they think. Again, I think his last statement here about she's for them, them, he's for us. I think that line is pretty aggressive for the kind of criticism that he could get back from the left on this. But they did it anyway because they feel it's worth that line of attack to appeal to this demographic. So this ad is very specific for Black Americans, because and if you're a dad, that's you definitely don't want some giant white dude coming in your girl's locker room or being on the sports. You don't want that. You don't want that. So I find that interesting. Harris Faulkner also did an interview with Trump, and so they talked about that as well. And he was just like, I'm just going to ban it. Now, I don't know if he can just ban it. That doesn't sound like that's probably going to pass all sort of legal challenges if he plans to just do that via executive order. But he can definitely put some pressure, and if Congress and stuff acts with him, they can put some pressure. But I don't know if it's going to be as easy as I'm just going to ban it.
Up and down the ballot. How many of you are worried about biological men and boys competing against women and girls in sports? Just show me. That's almost that is the entire room. And I know you have a question. I do.
By the way, excuse me, it's so crazy. It's so crazy.
Your question, your name and your hometown.
My name is Linda, and I'm from Milton, Georgia.
Good.
But originally Brooklyn, New York.
Oh,
I'd get that
good.
in there. My question is, how do you plan on addressing the transgender issue in women's sports? I have 9 grandchildren, 6 of them female, all playing sports, and we are very concerned for their safety, not just on the field and the courts, but in their locker rooms as well.
Right. It's such an easy question, and everybody in the room, and you know that answer, we're not going to let it happen. You look, just yesterday, they had a volleyball match. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Where a person that transitioned, okay? We have to be very careful because this can terminate your political career if you say it's slightly off, all right? But transitioned from man to female and was on a volleyball. And I saw the slam. It was a slam. I never saw a ball hit so hard, hit the girl on the head. But other people, even in volleyball, they've been they've been really hurt badly, women playing men. But you don't have to do the volleyball. We stop it. We stop it. We absolutely stop it. You can't have it. It's a man playing in the game. I mean, physically, from a muscular, even if it was a little bit less, maybe they do all sorts of tests and drugs and everything else. Look at what's happened in swimming. Look at the records that are being broken.
So how do you stop it? Do you go to the sports leagues? Do you go to the Olympic
You just ban it. The president bans it. You just don't let it happen. Not a big deal.
He's saying it's not a big deal. Now, I think he'd have challenges up the wazoo for that, but at least that's where his mind is at. Now, that kind of runs contrast into an interview he had with Bloomberg News. Now Trump is getting blasted for this by some folks on the right. Now, some of these people are not going to vote for him because he's not conservative enough anyway, on other issues, but I don't like this either. And I don't know why he's using this particular language. So let me just play it for you guys.
Look, this is a party, the Republican Party, of common sense. Forget about conservative, liberal. We're, let's say conservative, but we're really a party of, we need borders, we need fair elections, we don't want men playing in women's sports, we don't want transgender operations without parental consent. You know, there's so many things, but it's 99.9% is common sense.
So I think the caveat there with the parental consent is, I mean, there's these conversations about different states being transgender sanctuary cities, basically, where kids can go and you know, be shielded and have that stuff be paid for, and there's nothing you can really do or whatever, which it is incredibly scary. And so even if you were pro like transgender stuff, you may not be on board for that all the way. But the issue with saying that, you know, we don't want this stuff without parental consent is that there's already bad stuff happening because there's also parental consent. There's parents who are guilted into this stuff. They're like Chloe Cole, her parents consented to her getting hormones and her chopping off her breast. They consented to that, but they were told this is good for your son, and you can either have an alive son or a dead daughter. That's the sort of rhetoric that they tell some of these parents. So they're scared to death, and they, you know, they want to do what's best for their kid, and they unfortunately think that that's the best for their kids. That's what the doctors who are incentivized to make these kids pharma slaves for the rest of their lives, or some of them are, you know, just ideologically driven toward, you know, that sort of road. And they'll tell these parents this stuff, right? So even if you have parental consent, that doesn't mean a good thing is happening there. And it's just child abuse. Now, this came up during the Republican primary, you know, which Trump did not participate in that at all. And people were ragging on Chris Christie because that was his position. You know, like, you can't basically get too involved with the parents and stuff with those situations. And Ron DeSantis is like, it's just child abuse. So let's flash back a second.
Don't know that slippery slope, what rights are going to be taken away next, and what's going to be focused on.
As a parent, you do not have the right to abuse your kids. This is cutting off their genitals. This is mutilating these minors. These are irreversible procedures. And this is something that other countries in Europe, like Sweden, once they started doing it, they saw it did incalculable damage. They've shut it down. I signed legislation in Florida banning the mutilation of minors because it is wrong. We cannot allow this to happen in this country. And I know Chris disagrees with me, and I think he has an honest position. Nikki disagrees with me. She opposes the bill that we did to ban that. She said the law shouldn't get involved with it. You said the law shouldn't get involved with it. She also, though, I think, and this flows from what she did as governor of South Carolina, you know, they had a bill to try to say that men shouldn't go into girls' bathrooms. And she killed that bill, and she bragged that she killed that bill. Even to this day, she bragged that. I don't think men should be going into little girls' bathrooms. I think it's wrong, and I think we have every right to protect them from that.
Yeah, that just reminded me. I mean, I showed this video at the time, and we talked about this debate at the time because Nikki Haley was lying. She was so dishonest during the primaries about different stuff they bust her on, and that she flipped on, and, you know, she was trying to be kind of moderate, but you know, but you have to appeal to the conservative base, obviously, and she had just made some boo-boos, and things are recorded, you know. So he was correct because she said she was against the bill or whatever. So It said it should be up to the parents or the states or whatever. So and Ron is just like, no, it's child abuse. You should not be sterilizing kids or chopping off their stuff, making these permanent decisions with all these sort of different repercussions. So I think Ron was correct here. So I'm not saying that I think that Donald Trump will allow, be a champion of, if you have parental consent, you can go along and do this, but I don't like the language, and I wonder why it was phrased that particular way. Because I would just say we don't want transgender surgeries on minors, and we don't want minors to do irreparable damage to themselves based off of bunk science. And you could say we're going to make sure that these people who are harmed, that they're empowered in every kind of way to seek retribution, after like hack science has done these terrible things to them. And once lawsuits and different stuff starts pouring in, I'm sure they'll start knocking some of this stuff off, because again, a lot of the stuff is ideological, but a lot of it is just money, man. A lot of it is just money. So I don't know. Again, I think he'll obviously be better than Kamala and Biden, who will change have made things to tweak Title IX, who have threatened school lunches and other stuff like that, and just federal funds in general, if they do not comply with all of this transgender stuff and allow the boys in the girls locker rooms and all that stuff, and have put questionable people in their administration, and push some really unethical stuff in their administration, and keep pushing affirmation. And they can say now that they don't support the surgeries, but they're the ones who posted ways to affirm, and which included surgeries and all that stuff too. So don't tell me you don't support it when you promoted the idea of it already in your special little spreadsheet. I don't know if I have that graphic up saved. I've showed it to you guys many times. I don't know if I have it saved right now, because I had to get rid of some stuff because I just had too much stuff. But yeah, this was from the White House. They had posted this. And it was early on in Biden's term, maybe like within the first year, when they talked about gender affirming care, and they had all this stuff. So they have social affirmation, puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and gender affirming surgeries. So that was, maybe they released this around Trans Visibility Day, and Biden, and then they just keep saying, hey, it's so important to affirm people. When you're saying it's important to affirm people, and there's all these different ways to affirm them, and you're talking about gender affirming surgeries, just kind of gives people the vibe that you support it, so. And then when your assistant health secretary tries to get rid of these standards or recommendations on ages, just there's just a lot of red flags there, so anyway, let's move on. I want to talk about Kamala Harris for a second, and how they're so obsessed with her name. So I came across this video. Trump War Room posted it. I don't know why they posted this one, but I guess that's how I saw it. And her husband had a conversation with Emmanuel Aiko, I think that's his name. He doesn't host like the Bachelor stuff too. I know he took over a little bit after Chris was like booted out for a little while, but he had I'm familiar with him because he did an uncomfortable conversation about Roe v. Wade, and had like no pro-life people on his panel to have the uncomfortable conversation. And he was trying to bridge the gap between like the church and abortion, and again, no pro-life representation there. So this guy will always kind of get side eyes from me. But this is a dumb conversation, and I want to talk about it.
What does it say about kind of gender inequality, either subliminally or overtly, that there are little things like referring to a man in office by his last name, which signifies an authoritative position, versus a woman in office by their first name, which kind of signifies, yeah, we're friends.
Or even worse, when they intentionally mispronounce her name,
Mm-hmm.
Which is another way to try to diminish or demean. Yeah, no, it needs to be equal. And I've been, trying to, live that. Someone who stepped away from a big career that I love very much to support her. And it's okay to do that. It doesn't make me feel like I'm any less of a dude by doing that. She supports me just as much as I support her.
What does it?
Okay, so couple things I want to address. First of all, there are people who are mispronouncing her name, and some people are doing it on purpose. But I'm sure it's just because they don't like her. Perhaps they're doing it to demean her. Just like Kamala Harris is going around lying about Trump to demean him. So just get over that, man. But there's plenty of people who are saying her name wrong because they just don't know how to pronounce her name. When they see, or they're used to saying her name wrong. And if people are used to saying her name wrong, it's going to take some time for them to just say it correctly. I'm going to show you some examples of people saying her name wrong. Okay. Do you think these people are racist because they're saying her name wrong?
Kamala Harris.
Our leader, Kamala.
Okay, so they're not quite saying it right. Okay. Then I'm sure it's Kamala. But people aren't saying it right. It's not on purpose. I had one of Whoopi Goldberg too. Whoopi said it wrong too, I believe.
Do 4 years and then try to figure out where to go with Kamala. Then he just...
Yeah, I don't know why people are saying Kamala. To me, Kamala makes more... Kamala. That's what I was saying. Kamala is how you say the name, I believe. I was saying Kamala for the longest time. And other people are saying Kamala. And I'm pretty sure Joe Biden has said her name incorrectly many times. It's just a different kind of name. But all these people are not doing it because they're racist or whatever. They're just they see her name, their mind processes how they think it should be said. They sound it out in their minds. They say it out loud, and maybe they're wrong. Maybe they're wrong. And it's just really that simple. But for people to act like it's a big racial thing is just insane. Peter Meyer is no longer a congressman now, but he was a congressman. He's part of a dynasty of these grocery stores called Meyer. And I was watching Ben Shapiro talk about Peter Meyer on his show. And do you know what he did not do? Pronounce Meyer correctly. He did not know how to pronounce Meyer. So it made me feel better because I'm like, because I know I'm saying some people's names wrong sometimes when I'm looking at different Congress people and stuff, and I just, haven't heard it or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, he's big time and he's still getting these names wrong. I'm not going to be too. I'll try to do better, but I'm not going to be too hard on myself because he cannot say Peter Meyer. and there'll be people, who come from Canada or other places like, where is this Meyer? And they pronounce it totally wrong. They don't know how to say it. And that's fine. They haven't heard it out loud. They haven't heard other people say it. They're sounding it out and they're doing their best. So this isn't something that's exclusive to Kamala. It's not. It's not something exclusive to Black people. Peter Meyer is a white guy. So get over it. Seriously. And I've said this before many times, but there are people who I know who know me, have known me for years, have been very kind to me, have done things to help and aid me and all this other kind of different stuff. Just sweet people who know me. They know me. and will look me dead in my eye and call me Christine. Dead in my eye. They've seen my name written out. They've sent emails with my name and other documents, and they still look me dead in my eye and call me Christine. And I don't know where that comes from. Christina is it's a great name, but it's such a basic, common name that I have no idea how the A gets swapped for an E all of a sudden. All of a sudden, it's very strange to me. But I don't think those people are racist because they called me Christine, and people aren't racist because they can't pronounce Kamala. You know, I'm trying to say it the correct way, but sometimes I say it wrong. I did a skit yesterday. Posted, if you haven't seen it, I recommend you go see it. I posted on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, though all those things are suppressing me, but go ahead and go find it yourself and watch it. But at one point, I'm in the skit, I say her name wrong, and I didn't say her name wrong on purpose. I just used to saying it incorrectly. It's not personal, and you can ask people to do better. But to attribute all of this motive is disgusting. For all of them to attribute all of this motive is disgusting. And that's why they're scumbags. That's why all of this is really scummy. You can respectfully say, hey, my name is Kamala, and leave it at that. I don't think it's worth repeating and continuously talking about and making it such a big talking point. You know, maybe taking that little moment in convention and like teaching people how to say your name is fine, but continue. Like, I've seen CNN segments where someone says her name wrong. I think it was Nancy Mace said her name incorrectly, and then people started trying to like insinuate like it was racial or whatever because they said her name wrong. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. Now, as far as this is a new thing though, because now they're going to sexism. They're attaching sexism into this now. So it's not just that people are mispronouncing her name. It's the fact that people are calling her Kamala instead of Harris. And when they talk about men, they use their last names. But when they talk about women, you know, they got to use just their first name. Now, that isn't the case all the time, but with Kamala, I think there's a reason why they use her name, right? So let me share a little something with you back in the day when she was running in 2019 and she got her bus. You guys remember her bus? Do you guys remember her bus? I'm going to show you her bus. Okay? We're going to go back in time a little bit. Here we go. Just to show you some things. Get some perspective about the past. Sometimes we forget the past. Let me roll that back a little bit.
One of the greatest strengths about who we are as a people is in our core, in our heart. We know we all have so much more in common than what separates us.
Senator Harris is kicking off a 5-day bus tour.
Look at my bus! Oh my God, I love it! Welcome to the bus, the For the People bus. I love being in Iowa. You have made me a better candidate.
Today, California Senator Kamala Harris will be making a stop right here in Sioux City.
It is the conversations that we've been having that have really given me a lot of perspective on some of the biggest issues that are facing us as a country. There are two groups of people raising our children. Parents, often with the assistance of grandparents and aunts and uncles, and our teachers. But we are not paying them their value. We fight for our country. That's the nature of who we are. If we have faith to see what...
Okay, that's enough. I didn't even mean to play all that, but I had to plug in my laptop battery, to be frank. But I already showed you, already saw what I wanted you to see. You right there.
Oh, my bus. My bus. I love it. I love
Oh my
it.
God, I love it.
Oh my God, I love it.
Before the people bus.
Look at that. The back says Kamala. One side says we the people, and the other side just says Kamala. Okay, Doug. She branded herself this way. She branded herself this way. And now, if you refer to her by her name, her first name, her legal name, you are sexist. Because why? Because you refer to Trump as Trump? Trump built his name into a brand. People see his name, they understand his name, they equate it to wealth and money and real estate, gold, peeing and gold toilets, and all kinds of other nonsense. And now we relate it to presidents and other kind of stuff as well. Success, other, there's all this stuff associated with Trump. Branding is so important when it comes to just life in general, entertainment, all kinds of business, but politics especially. Do you know why people put up like signs everywhere? I mean, it's not just so people can show their support, but it's so you get that name in your head, because there's going to be a lot of people. Well, one, you want people to be curious and to look up the person and have that name stick out to them. But there's some people who will never even bother to look up that stuff. And they'll be like a school board name. Never seen a commercial, didn't look them up on Facebook or nothing. And there's a list of names. But someone sticks out to you because they had a sign, and that person just feels familiar to you for some reason, and you're like, I'm gonna support them. That happens. Just something simple like people knowing your name. Name ID means everything. Trump has radically high name ID. Harris is a basic name. It's basic, but Kamala is different. It's unique. It's a standout, and she's different. Got that ethnic check mark, and that's really important to the Dem and stuff, and to a lot of people in general. So her standing out and people knowing that she's a woman, is also important to her whole shtick, to their whole shtick. So I'm sure she branded herself again this particular way because she realized the uniqueness in that opportunity. But if you call her Kamala, instead of referring to her as Harris, it's because you're sexist, because you don't take her seriously enough, because she's a friend. She ain't my friend. I don't like her. She ain't my friend. That's not why I call her Kamala. That's not why I call her Kamala. But I'm used to calling her Kamala. She wanted it to be that way. She realized there was a uniqueness to it. So just these dudes doing everything to uplift her and say the dumbest stuff. The dumbest stuff. Speaking of dumb stuff, you guys know how I mentioned the other day how the Harris campaign just lies about every freaking thing, everything they can. It's uncanny how much they lie. Well, the news, ABC News, decided to do a random act of journalism, and they covered the event the other day where Trump was at a town hall and there were some medical emergencies. And so they decided to just kind of pump the brakes on the town hall. And Trump was like, hey, well, you guys can leave or we can play some music. They're like, play some music. And so ABC explains what happened. And, they're like, actually, it was actually pretty nice. Because Kamala HQ, it's just like, oh, Trump appears lost, confused, and frozen on stage as multiple songs play for 30 minutes, and the crowd pours out of the venue early. So that's what they're saying. That's what the surrogates and people are so excited because they're like, oh, we're so happy we have this line of attack against Trump that he's senile. And Biden was like, I think echoing it. The press secretary was asked about it, just off of this silly nonsense. off of this silly nonsense. So thank you, ABC, for this random act of journalism. I'm not going to play the whole segment. I'll just play a little bit and skip around.
Town hall event in Pennsylvania took an unusual turn after he was interrupted twice by medical emergencies in the room. Trump stopped taking questions and stood on stage for nearly 45 minutes listening to his soundtrack. The crowd slowly dispersed, but many stayed for what became an impromptu indoor concert. ABC News senior national correspondent Terry Moran joins me now for more from Pennsylvania. Hey, Terry.
Hey, Alex. So Donald Trump came here to the suburbs of Philadelphia, one of the critical battlegrounds in this battleground state, looking for votes. And it was scheduled to be this town hall event where he would be taking questions and listening to voters. And it turned into something else, as you say, when the candidate turned into a DJ.
Donald Trump, in his 11th trip to must-win Pennsylvania, urged his supporters to turn out on Election Day.
We win Pennsylvania, we win the whole thing.
Yes. In a town hall-style event in the western suburbs of Philadelphia, the former president stuck to his top issues, attacking Vice President Harris over
Yeah, the report goes on talking about how he stuck to like he talked about his issues, etc., blah blah blah, and then there was the medical stuff, and so it just kind of killed the vibe, and so they decided to do something else, and then people were into it. Which, by the way, people at Trump related stuff, they play a lot of, there's like a same playlist. I haven't been to one in a while, but it's usually the same kind of playlist with songs that he likes and other stuff. He likes YMCA. There's, some rock music. I Want It That Way plays. I have a video of people that I worked with in 2016 in the chair at the time, who was Ronna McDaniel, who went on to be the RNC chair, just all like singing to the, I Want It That Way. And there's so much time between like waiting for him, because if you haven't been to like a Trump rally, you just don't know how long of a day it can be. There are people who go there and they'll wait all day in line for hours upon hours. Every time I've come, I've basically been a VIP person who's gotten in. So there's a special entrance you go in and stuff. And so you don't have to get there quite as early because they're going to let you in. But it's still a long wait. You go there, they have a program that starts. And then the program that initially starts is usually like local people who's running for office. Maybe it's a local state party running it, or maybe it's the Oakland County. I mean, not the Oakland County, but the local chairs or whatever. And they'll say stuff, and they'll lead with like the anthem and other things like that, pledge and so on. And so between the little program, like the pre-program, there might be like an hour or more of space between that and when Trump arrives. So people are, playing music and other kind of stuff and having fun regardless. So people are kind of used to hearing this playlist of, whatever the campaign plays and hanging out and having fun. So excuse me, it doesn't surprise me that Trump's like, hey, you guys want to listen to music? And folks are like, sure. And that they stayed and they vibed. I mean, if you have the opportunity to stay and vibe with the former president of the United States, likely president once again, and you're listening to, some pop culture or some classic songs or whatever, like why wouldn't you kind of vibe? Unless you wanted to leave early to go to Chick-fil-A or something, which I did leave a Trump rally early to go to Chick-fil-A once. But a lot of people would just kind of be like, hey, let's hang out. And those moments are good for Trump, because people try to paint him like he's some kind of obscure monster. And when there are moments where people can just kind of see him chill and joking and laughing or whatever, those moments are good. And Kamala Harris HQ tried to make it seem like he was losing it, like he couldn't get through a whole town hall and he's just standing there all kind of spaced out. And this is not what happened. But let me play the end of it, because they say that people had a good time. Uh-oh, looks like may have to maybe refresh that.
town hall event in Pennsylvania took an unusual turn after he was interrupted twice by medical emergencies in the room.
We'll play YMCA and we'll go home.
Trump kept DJing, and most of his supporters stayed for another 30 minutes of his playlist. Well, in certain quarters of social media, people had a field day with that, and I guess on the screens it might have looked quite strange. Inside that hall, however, people were having a good time. What can I tell you? It did not seem out of the ordinary. It seemed almost intimate, and at the end, Trump did something he very rarely does. He came down off the stage and mingled with his supporters. He was signing autographs and shaking hands and the like. Today, he's doing an interview with Bloomberg in Chicago, and then
Yeah, so you know, for them to try to paint him like he's insane or losing it, especially when Joe Biden had many senior moments and they tried to cover that up. And Trump, I mean, we all know what happened with the rally. He didn't just it wasn't just like a let's shut it down, I can't finish it or something like that. And he was just standing still frozen for like 40 minutes. That's just it's not what happened. So I hate the dishonesty in politics, but it's I've never seen people lie like this. And it's funny because Kamala Harris, when I went to an event a couple weeks ago, maybe it was like 2-3 weeks ago, I don't know. And I said, hey, there's things that I'm unhappy about when it comes to Trump. And I prefer the 2016 platform. I don't like the new one that they put out. There's things about it I don't like, you know. But I don't like Kamala Harris. I don't like her at all. And I haven't liked her for a long time. And the reason why I don't like her, one of the many reasons, is that she is one of the most insincere people in the game. She's fake. She's phony. Always has been, and will say anything and do anything to gain power. And a lot of people will. But it's another thing when you say anything, will do anything. It's not just that you will lie, it's the quality of your lie as well. Like how far are you willing to break the country to win this thing? Like the sort of lies that they tell about Donald Trump, they're not just a reflection on Trump himself, they're a reflection on the voters. And for you to go around, for example, and push the very fine people hoax, and to make people believe that he called Nazis very fine people, and that there's all these Americans who know that he said that, in which he didn't say that because he condemned them totally, but to make Americans believe that he felt that way, and there's all these people who are on board with that, that makes you look sideways not only at him, but also the people who would back him. So that makes you feel not good about your fellow man and the man who's in charge too. You think he's some kind of deranged monster. So it's just they do things that impact the health of the country. But so there's a big egregious lies like that, but there's also like these really stupid little ones. You know, this thing at the rally, or the town hall that they're lying about, it's such a stupid lie. But they persist. And you won't ever be able to believe anything that these people say with the kind of quality of the lies that they tell. Like Tim Walz has told some whoppers, just things that were crazy and dumb to just lie about, but they keep lying. And then he's like, oh, well, I just misspoke. My grammar is terrible. Oh, your grammar is why you're saying that you were in China in a time that you weren't in there for a pretty historical event. Your grammar is why you lied about carrying weapons of war. Like you can misspeak, but you're not misspeaking. You're just lying to people. You're just blatantly lying to people. Like anyway. Shout out to Novi. I think it's Novi. He put people over politics. The AC was out. I had heard that too. About the AC. You know, he to pretend like he can't finish a town hall This man will go on podcasts and he's like a machine. He'll go on like in hostile territory and have conversations. I'm not saying he always wants to do that or whatever, but he has done it. We've seen him do it to pretend like he couldn't go on at a town hall with Christy freaking Nome. Like, come on, in Pennsylvania, where it's a must-win state. To think that he couldn't handle that and would just stop it because everybody, if he was having a senior moment on stage with all these folks for like 40 minutes, do you think his staff would just let him stay on stage having a senior moment for like 40 minutes with cameras there? I can't take the lies. And I hate when they're so stupid. Thank you for the super chat. Before I move on to this, I'm going to stay long on the pop culture thing, but really quickly, I want to mention that the FBI apparently readjusted some numbers for their crime statistics, and their readjustment of the crimes, makes Donald Trump correct. The FBI revised their crime statistics, showing that it increased by 4.5% in 2022 instead of dropping 2.1%. And I don't know how you just miss a bunch of murders that happened in your statistics, but I want to bring you back here to this debate where you had fact checking at the debate, and the fact check was incorrect. Now, we knew the fact check wasn't correct, but now there's more information that's coming out, and they're like stealth editing their data. And once again, Trump was right.
Crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Crime is down all over
Anyway, revised FBI crime data reveals that originally missed 1,699 murders in 2022. Given that all murders are reported, how does the FBI miss that many murders? It's questions. People have pointed out, like, how come so many of these things, when there's like revisions and mistakes, it always kind of trends one way. Like, there was a bunch of jobs, wasn't like nearly 1 million jobs, like some kind of crazy number, that the Biden administration, whatever, didn't actually create the jobs reports and stuff. So everyone kept insisting the economy's so good, and there's like, oh, by the way, we don't have nearly as many jobs as we were claiming that we had, and we had to go back and we have to revise the numbers. I don't know, it's always kind of seems pretty suspicious. And then, by the way, a lot of those jobs that are coming are things like government jobs. A lot of them are government jobs. So Trump is right again. They really should not have fact checks at debates. JD Vance, I was so glad when he called out CBS for interjecting when they should not have interjected. But ABC, they corrected Trump like 3-4 times, and they didn't say anything to Kamala Harris, who lied during that debate. So yeah, Trump didn't do too hot during that debate, but they obviously were playing games there. I did want to show you guys this clip of Ted Cruz versus Colin Allred, for Senate, because he's up for re-election. And I meant to play this at the first segment, but this conversation came up, and he just like sliced him and diced him, man.
Congressman, where do you stand on transgender athletes in women's sports?
Well, let's be very clear. Let's be very clear about what's happening in this campaign. This is, you don't have to be a former NFL linebacker to recognize a Hail Mary when you see one. This is a desperate last-second attempt by Senator Cruz to distract you because he can't defend his own record. Listen, I'm a dad. I'm a Christian.
I love how the truth is always just a distraction. We're not going to distract you. As if Democrats aren't pointing toward like lies and like smears to distract people. Like Project 2025, that is a huge and apparently very successful distraction, because that's something that's not even Trump's policies, but they keep pointing to it. And then, Trump had to like distance himself and throw Heritage and all these folks under the bus in order to disassociate. And it doesn't even matter, because people still are pointing the finger and trying to connect those dots to them, even though Heritage, Project 2025, there's many things that they support that Trump is running counter to, like his policies on abortion and stuff like that. There's things that they claim that Trump is going to do that I wish was true, as far as how conservative some of that stuff is. And some of the things that they're saying about Project 2025 isn't even true. So that's a distraction. That's an example of a distraction. Pointing out that this man here has supported transgender stuff and boys and girls sports, and is this the truth? And the voters deserve to know so they can make an informed decision. So the truth is not a distraction, I mean, if it's not relevant, like, if they got into a heated debate about whether pineapple should go on pizza, that's a distraction, though it does, and it's delicious. So, and I'm sorry if some of you have to unsubscribe for that, but pineapple on pizza is amazing. But if that was suddenly like a topic at the debate all of a sudden, that, and instead of like being like a quick little funny question, and there was a heated debate while there's other important things to discuss, that would be messed up. But to have these conversations about boys and girls sport, this is important, and it doesn't need to be important. It didn't need to be important, but the Democrats kept making it important because they kept trying to use the LGBT community to impose their will upon the American population, particularly to go after, I mean, the sports is one thing, but they've used, especially, not even the T, but the homosexuality and stuff to go after and limit the liberties of Christians, and they'll continue to do that if they can. So they've weaponized that group, and you've had people like Jack Phillips, who's in Colorado, a baker who not only had to try to save his business when there was a same-sex couple who wanted a cake, and then like transgender people going after him now, and it's nonstop. And we shouldn't have to have fear like that all the time. But now it's beyond that with the sports stuff, and it's important to talk about. Sometimes Democrats will try to dismiss it like, this is such a small group population. It's such a small population, but you've made them such a big deal. And you want everyone else in the country to bow down to them instead of them having to learn to deal with a choice that they made to themselves. So it's not a distraction, sir. Just answer the questions and be honest.
Of course, I don't support these ridiculous things that he's talking about. But what he wants you thinking about is kids in bathrooms. So you're not thinking about women in.
So he's like, I'm a Christian. I know I wouldn't be for these things. Like, have you ever just, thou shalt not lie, sir? Have you ever just, I don't know, thought about scriptures and commandments and things like that?
Hospitals, because it's indefensible. It's indefensible that we have Texas women being turned away from hospitals, bleeding out in their cars, in waiting rooms, being found by their husbands.
Yeah,
so all of a sudden,
that's propaganda.
This is a good one. All of a sudden, the protector of women and girls is going to be Senator Cruz, who thinks it's perfectly reasonable that if a girl is raped by a relative of hers, a victim of incest, that she should be forced to carry that child to term and give birth to it. You think that's perfectly reasonable, but now you're going to set yourself up as a protector of women and girls? It's laughable. And listen, he's trying to distract you because what can he run on? I've never seen somebody who runs for office on what he hasn't done. He's been one of the least productive senators in the entire country. You know that. I talk to Texans all the time who say, I can't think of anything Ted Cruz has done to help me in my life. When I'm your senator, I'll keep focused on the issues that matter to you, on lowering your costs.
I don't mind Ted Cruz standing up against stupid stuff that I don't want passed. I'd rather have somebody in there who's gonna block like dumb stuff. Um, Texas, just like every other state in the country, has protections for women in their pro-life laws. So if there is a medical emergency and their life needs to be preserved, that they can have an abortion. You do not need to have some kind of you don't need to be bleeding out, like literally about to die. There's been different court cases that have made the law more clear, and they really want people to be confused and afraid so they can not only deal with these very, very rare issues, but to justify all abortions. They want to use that for everything. And there are situations where doctors maybe wait too late, or there's malpractice, or there is some confusion on the hospital's part or whatever. But sometimes they'll bring up stories where doctors just tell women to wait to see if they'll pass like a miscarriage or something, because they would rather see if they do that naturally rather than having to do surgery. So there's a lot of conflated stories. I don't know if he specifically brought up like Kate Cox, for example, but Kate Cox, for example, her doctors did not use the standard of, they said her life was not in imminent danger. They did not use the medical standard that was necessary for her to even argue that she should have an abortion. And in reality, she wanted an abortion because she knew she would have to have a C-section, and she wanted to save it for a healthy child. That's like was like in the documents when they requested to have the abortion. So it was about wanting to euthanize her baby, not because she needed one to preserve her life. And so there's all these kinds of cases and stories that people keep pushing to push a narrative. But anyway.
On securing the border, on restoring a woman's right to choose. That's what I'll be focused on.
Senator Cruz, you have 90 seconds to respond.
Well, it was striking once again in that answer. He said not a word about his own record. I have to admit, the beginning of it reminded me of Kamala Harris in her debates, answering everything. Look, I was born in the middle class. It's some lines that sound nice that ignore his record. Let's just talk about his voting record. Again, you can go to allredfacts.com. You can see the actual votes. 4 times he has come out for men playing in women's sports, for boys playing in girls' sports. He is a co-sponsor, and he voted for a law called the Equality Act. The Equality Act mandated that boys be able to go in girls' bathrooms, in their locker rooms, and their changing rooms. He voted for it. That is his record. Number 2, there was a bill. It was a very simple bill. It was narrowly defined. It was protecting women in girls' sports. He voted no. The only issue on that bill was whether biological boys should compete against our daughters. That's not fair. Congressman Allred was an NFL linebacker. It is not fair for a man to compete against women. The 3rd time he signed on to something called the Transgender Bill of Rights. Transgender Bill of Rights explicitly, and he co-sponsored it, mandated that boys compete against girls' sports. And just 2 weeks ago, Congressman Allred joined 100 radical Democrats in demanding that our military allow drag shows on military bases, pay for soldiers to have sex changes using taxpayer money, and pay for children to be sterilized and have sex changes on military bases. Again, that's extreme. That's not Texas, but that is his voting record.
Yeah. The pesky thing about, voting for things is that people can look at your record and bring it up in debates. People certainly can. I got another super chat here. 7 states have no gestational limits. They twist it. Yep, that's true. And he's like, I'm a Christian. I would never do these terrible things. That's why I support abortion, though. Maybe you need to, have a conversation with the Lord, sit down and really kind of get your views out there, man. Cause I don't bring it like I'm a Christian. I wouldn't believe these things, but I totally believe in woman's right to destroy an image bearer of God for any reason she deems necessary or possible, or just because she feels like it. Just stop. Just stop. Just stop the madness. Stop the nonsense. Okay. Before I let you guys go, let me pull up the Simu Liu thing. Doesn't look like I have it saved. This is an actor who did Shang-Chi. I think they want you to pronounce it Shang-Chi, and I'm like, I'm not saying that because it's silly. Jim Starlin, who I've met Jim Starlin. Jim Starlin made that character, and he pronounced it as Shang-Chi, and that's how people pronouncing it forever, but they made it like a big thing in the movie and like how to pronounce it right or whatever. Right? I don't know. So anyway, this clip is going around about cultural appropriation with a bubble tea pitch.
I am studying your can, and I am looking for anything that tells me where boba came from. And where boba came from is Taiwan. You know, I started this venture company for a lot of reasons, but really primarily to uplift minority entrepreneurs. And not only do I feel like this is not happening here, but that I would be uplifting a business that is profiting off of something that feels so dear to my cultural heritage. I want to be a part of bringing boba to the masses, but not like this. So for that reason, I'm out.
Thanks.
Respect that.
Respect that.
It makes me sad how successful this business is. It makes me sad that people are, you know, they're
Why?
drinking boba with the raccoon with the sun.
It doesn't mean that they don't have the opportunity to change and do that.
That's true, but
It
there has
doesn't
to be a
mean-
willingness, and I have to be able to invest in these founders knowing that,
Right,
that
but they
change is
didn't.
possible.
They didn't say no. The collaboration that they've had to this point is with their supplier in Taiwan, and if nobody else has told them that before, you can't put that all on them.
He said it makes me sad how successful they are. What a tool. What a tool. And what's funny, my first thought about that when I saw that clip last night was that you know, he said some dumb things before, but he had came after like Quentin Tarantino and said some stuff about Scorsese and stuff because they said stuff about Marvel films or whatever. And he had criticized them, and he's like, I got to star in a movie that made $400 million and et cetera, blah 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 blah. But I'm like, okay, but that was an example of a white guy making a character, right? Your success and you being there, being able to play that part in many of these roles that people play is what, cultural appropriation? Jim Starlin is not Asian. To my knowledge, he's a white guy who made that character, you know, and Marvel eventually made a film, and this actor got to play him, sure. And then they made a big stink about how they wanted his name to be pronounced or whatever. And which I feel is inappropriate. If the man said his name was Shang-Chi, his name is Shang-Chi, and you just kind of got to get over it. But, you know, whatever. People call it Shang-Chi. But that was a white guy who made that character, and people got to enjoy it. You know, culture is meant to be shared. So if you know, you can make your own bubble tea, or you can by all means, it's your money. You can invest whoever you want to, but you criticize them. They came looking for some help, and you criticize them, and then they left, and you said it makes you sad. They're so successful. There's people all over who do all kinds of different food, make food, and they're not from the original place where the food was from or whatever. And most people don't care. They just want to enjoy product. They want to be fed well, you know. Like I really like Mexican food. I really like it Americanized though. I like a little special, like, I don't know. I like how my sisters make like tacos and other stuff like that. I mean, still like other places, like whatever, but you know, I like a more Americanized, I don't like super traditional stuff. Now, I haven't been to Mexico and eaten there, and so a lot of my family's been there for missionary trips, and so maybe it'll be different when it's like fresh over there. But you know, people like a little bit of fusion and other stuff. But you take one thing, you enjoy it, you do something else. He didn't need to drag them like that. He needed to drag them like that. So annoying. And you know what? Was he not in the Barbie movie? Ken is a white doll, right? And they like all the Barbies were of different shapes and sizes and colors, which I thought was I didn't see the Barbie movie. I've seen a lot about the Barbie movie, but they had Barbies that were all Barbie. And it's like, well, where's Teresa and all these other characters that they have in the Barbie franchise? And it's all these guys are all Ken. And so he was an Asian Ken. So why is it okay for you to do things like that? And I know this is different, but they're just out there trying to make a business with something that they love and go on from there. Anyway, that's all I got to say. Crying, going, and coming. I'm just looking at your comments real quick. Some of you are commenting, and you're commenting things that happened earlier. So just wanted to see if there's anything else kind of interesting I want to address before I let you guys go. But at the beginning, someone said Charlemagne the fraud. Charlemagne is an interesting guy, because I hate how on the Breakfast Club they'll be like, we're independent. I'm like, how independently do you vote though? Like, is your vote actually up for grabs? Like, is it possible for someone like Trump to actually win your vote? Like, because you can complain about Democrats all day long, but you still, will march to that particular beat of the drum. I mean, so I don't like how many like people, third party folks have you voted for? How many Republicans have you voted for? Because at the end of the day, I wouldn't really be able to tell the difference between Charlemagne and a lot of the folks on there who say they're independent and they're just Democrats, But at least he's wise enough to know that he doesn't want his taxpayer dollars paying for illegal trans surgeries or whatever. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream, run my website, all the good stuff. You guys can check out some of my books. Like, I have my book, Of Course God is Blatantly Against Abortion. That guy, the Congressman Colin said, hey, I'm a Christian, I would never support that stuff, which wasn't even true about the trans stuff. But you should pick up my book. You should pick up my book, because not only is it wrong to unjustly unalive innocent children, so many reasons why, like, if you look at the reasons why women tend to have abortions, they're all like genuine. They're usually about preserving one's lifestyle instead of their life, which it does deal with cases of life of the mother and rape and incest and all that stuff in this book too. But it should be, if you are a Christian, it should be against everything that you are to justify taking a child's life for those particular reasons, for financial and all that other stuff. You're not putting you're walking in fear. You're not putting your trust in the Lord. You're not valuing that individual as an image bearer of God, who is also loved by God. It's not just about you. God has a relationship with that child while they're in the womb. So you're taking the life of someone who God loves. And that's something that you need to consider. And people could say it's all just about a woman's choice, but that's not true. because you are choosing to support her in the violence and making it possible, making it legal, and you are not seeking justice for that child, which we are all called to also seek and do justice as well. So anyway, I encourage you guys to check it out if you haven't, and I do have a second edition that is available. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me. God bless. I don't want to do 5 closings today. I will see you tomorrow.